What if the one person you looked down on, the one you dismissed as not good enough, turned out to be the key to your biggest success? Picture this. You're on the verge of one of the most important days of your life, the day you get married. You've planned everything to perfection. The dress, the venue, the cake, each detail meticulously chosen. But there's one crucial thing you haven't considered. The person who's about to make you look flawless on your wedding day. For Emma, the bride at the center of this story, perfection was everything. It wasn't just about the dress or the grand venue. It was about her status. Her wedding had to be the talk of the town, a testament to her impeccable taste and superiority. And, as every bride knows, the makeup had to be nothing short of extraordinary. She didn't want someone good enough. She wanted the best. The most expensive, the most sought-after artist in town. Anything less was simply unacceptable. So, when Emma hired a makeup artist who didn't exactly fit her idea of luxury, someone who was a little too humble in her demeanor and a little too simple in her appearance, Emma's first reaction was to turn up her nose. How could someone like this possibly do my makeup? Emma thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that this woman was just another one of those wannabe artists who would never live up to her high standards. The idea that a makeup artist could truly be talented without flaunting her status was beyond Emma's comprehension. But what Emma didn't know, as she sat there in her bridal suite, judging Sarah, the makeup artist, was that this simple-looking woman had worked with some of the most elite celebrities in the world. She had created iconic looks that had graced magazine covers, worked backstage at fashion shows, and had even been the one behind the flawless faces of stars Emma worshipped from a distance. And Sarah wasn't the type to brag about it. In fact, she preferred to stay out of the limelight. She didn't need to impress anyone. Her work spoke for itself. As the makeup artist began to apply the foundation and contour, Emma continued to observe her with skepticism, wondering if this woman could even handle the pressure of such a high-profile wedding. Little did she know, Sarah wasn't just any artist. She was a master of her craft, calm, collected, and precise in ways Emma couldn't yet appreciate. But as Sarah continued to work her magic, Emma's doubts began to shift. Something about Sarah's quiet confidence began to make Emma question everything she thought she knew about success and talent. Stick with us till the end, and you'll find out how Emma's perspective changed, how her judgment turned upside down, and what she learned about the true meaning of success and humility. You won't want to miss the incredible twist that shows how first impressions can be so wrong. So, keep watching, because this story is about to get a lot more interesting. As Sarah worked her way through Emma's makeup, applying layers of foundation, blending eyeshadow, and perfecting every stroke, Emma couldn't help but glance at her from time to time, still skeptical. She couldn't deny that Sarah's technique was impressive. Each stroke was deliberate, precise, but Emma's mind kept circling back to one thought. This woman, working with high-profile celebrities, no way. Emma had spent months obsessing over every detail of her wedding, convinced that the right vendor, the right choice, would elevate her big day into something extraordinary. The idea that someone who looked so ordinary could hold such expertise seemed almost impossible to her. After all, everything Emma knew about success told her it had to come with a certain look, a certain lifestyle, fame, fortune, a polished exterior. Sarah didn't fit any of that. And in Emma's world, that was a problem. But as Sarah carefully worked on Emma's eye makeup, something began to shift. Sarah's hands moved with an artistry that went beyond technique. There was a calm precision in her every motion. The way she applied the eyeliner, how she highlighted Emma's cheekbones, and the way her fingers effortlessly blended the colors together made Emma's face look like a masterpiece. Emma couldn't help but stare, a mixture of awe and confusion swirling in her mind. It was then that Sarah broke the silence, casually mentioning, "You know, I've worked with a few celebrities over the years. I've done makeup for some pretty well-known names in the industry." Emma's eyes flickered up, but she didn't respond right away. She had heard similar things before from so-called artists who exaggerated their resumes, trying to impress clients like her. Yeah, right, Emma thought. Celebrities. Sure. She decided to brush it off and let Sarah continue, not wanting to engage with what she assumed was just another claim from a wannabe. But Sarah, noticing the lack of interest, smiled and added, "I did makeup for Isabella Langford last year. You know, the actress from The Lost Horizon. And I've worked behind the scenes for several fashion shows during New York Fashion Week. It's just part of the job, really." At the mention of Isabella Langford's name, Emma's breath caught in her throat. Isabella Langford was one of Emma's idols, an actress whose flawless beauty and glamorous life Emma had spent hours obsessing over. She followed Isabella on social media, kept up with every red carpet event, and envied her effortless grace. Wait, what? Emma's mind raced. Did she just say Isabella Langford? Before Emma could fully process what she was hearing, Sarah added, "Oh, and I also worked with the makeup team for the Starlet premiere last year. That was a fun gig." Emma's eyes widened in disbelief. The Starlet premiere, that was one of the biggest events of the year, attended by the world's most influential celebrities. Sarah had worked there. It didn't add up. The woman sitting in front of her, who had been dressed so simply and carried herself so humbly, had worked at these high-profile events. Emma's mind was starting to reel. How had she not seen this coming? Sarah, completely unaware of the internal storm brewing inside Emma, continued with her work, effortlessly blending shades of lipstick and applying the finishing touches. Emma sat there, her mind in overdrive, trying to reconcile the image of the woman she had been dismissing with the credentials Sarah was now revealing. For a moment, Emma was speechless. How had she been so quick to judge Sarah based on her appearance? She had assumed that because Sarah wasn't decked out in designer clothes or flaunting her connections, she couldn't possibly be someone of importance. But the more Sarah spoke, the more Emma realized how wrong she had been. This was a woman who had been in the room with the kind of people Emma could only dream of meeting. And here she was, sitting in front of Emma, quietly working her magic without any need for validation. As the final touches were applied, Emma felt a sense of unease wash over her. She had spent so much time judging Sarah, but in that moment, it was clear that she had been the one who needed to learn a lesson. It wasn't about the external appearances or the labels that came with success. It was about the talent, the hard work, and the quiet confidence that Sarah exuded. Emma couldn't deny that she had underestimated her. What happened next? How did Emma's perspective shift? Keep watching to find out how a snobby bride learned a lesson she never forget, and how Sarah's unassuming presence turned out to be the key to the most important lesson Emma would learn that day. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. As Sarah finished up the final touches on Emma's makeup, she took a step back, allowing Emma to gaze at her reflection in the mirror. For a moment, there was silence. Emma staring at her own face, taking in the flawless makeup, the perfect contour, the soft glow that Sarah had carefully crafted. She looked nothing short of stunning, but what struck her more than the beauty of the makeup itself was the realization of how little she had known about Sarah. Emma's mind was still racing. She couldn't shake the image of Sarah's calm, almost effortless demeanor as she worked. This wasn't just a makeup artist. This was someone who had been in the presence of the world's most famous, someone who had created looks for the stars she idolized. Yet here she was, humble, quiet, not at all what Emma had expected. Emma's reflection in the mirror was stunning, but her thoughts about Sarah were even more profound. The way she had dismissed this woman based on her simple appearance, the way she had believed that status and wealth equaled talent, Emma was beginning to see just how flawed her assumptions had been. Her mind went back to those moments when she had judged Sarah, the way she had looked at her, dismissing her as too ordinary for such an important role in her life. Why did I think I was so much better than her, Emma thought, feeling a deep sense of guilt creep in. Why did I believe that someone who didn't look like me couldn't possibly have what it took to make my wedding day perfect? She glanced at Sarah, who was now packing her brushes back into her kit with quiet professionalism, as if the past hour had been just another day at work. Sarah didn't seem to seek validation, nor did she seem concerned with Emma's changing attitude. It was clear now that she was used to being underestimated, used to people misjudging her. Yet, there she was doing her job with expertise and grace. No need for recognition or applause. Emma's guilt intensified as she realized how much she had let her vanity and insecurity dictate her behavior. She had been so focused on outward appearances, on the idea that success had to look a certain way, that she had failed to see the true measure of a person. It wasn't about what someone wore or how they presented themselves. It was about their character, their skills, and their dedication. "Thank you," Emma said softly, her voice tinged with sincerity. It was the first time she had truly thanked Sarah, not just for the makeup, but for the lesson she had unwittingly taught her. Sarah looked up, a small, kind smile on her face, and nodded. No grand words were needed. Sarah knew that the work she had done spoke louder than any compliment. As Sarah finished packing up, Emma couldn't help but feel a strange sense of gratitude. Not just for the beautiful makeup that would make her feel like the most beautiful bride in the world, but for the opening realization that had just occurred. The day was about to unfold, and everything was falling into place except now. Emma wasn't just thinking about her wedding day. She was thinking about the bigger picture. She was thinking about how she would never look at another person in the same way again. As Sarah made her way toward the door, Emma hesitated for a moment, as if she wanted to say something more. But the truth was, there was nothing more to say. The lesson had already been learned. Emma's world had shifted, and she knew it was for the better. It wasn't just about makeup, or weddings, or appearances. It was about people, about seeing beyond the surface, and about understanding that everyone has a story, a skill, and a journey of their own. Sarah had been an example of that truth, and Emma was deeply humbled by it. As Sarah left the room, Emma's reflection in the mirror no longer felt like the only thing that mattered. What mattered more now was the quiet shift in her own heart. She had been so focused on the wrong things, but now she understood what true beauty really was inside and out. The wedding day went on without a hitch. Emma was the picture of elegance, but as she looked around at the people she had once judged, she felt a quiet confidence in knowing that she had learned a valuable lesson, one that would stay with her far beyond her wedding day. And what about Sarah? Well, Sarah didn't need Emma's validation. She didn't need to be acknowledged or celebrated. She had already done what she came to do, not just create a beautiful look for Emma, but to show her what real success, talent, and humility looked like. Emma may have started the day as a snobby bride, quick to judge and dismiss, but by the end of it, she had learned something priceless. And that, in itself, was the most beautiful transformation of all. This story wasn't just about makeup. It was about the people we overlook, the ones we think we understand based on their appearance, and the moments that change us when we least expect it. It's a reminder to never judge a book by its cover and to always recognize the value in those around us, no matter who they are or what they look like. A few weeks after the wedding, Emma sat at her desk, flipping through the pages of her wedding album. The photos were breathtaking, each shot capturing the joy, love, and elegance of the day. But as she looked closer, Emma realized that it wasn't just her dress or the venue that stood out in the pictures. It was her face, glowing with confidence and radiance, thanks to Sarah's expert touch. She found herself smiling as she turned to the pictures of the bridal suite. There was one candid shot that stood out, a photo of Sarah mid-application, her face calm and focused, holding a brush with practiced ease. Emma paused, staring at the image. It felt symbolic, a reminder of the unexpected wisdom she had gained that day. The experience stayed with her, lingering in her thoughts long after the wedding excitement had faded. Emma found herself thinking about Sarah more often than she expected, not just about her talent, but about her humility and grace. She wondered how many other people she had overlooked in her life, people who had their own extraordinary stories, their own unique brilliance, but who never sought the spotlight. Motivated by this realization, Emma decided to make a change. She began paying more attention to the people around her at work, in her social circles, even in casual interactions. She asked more questions, showed genuine interest, and listened with an open heart. She wanted to ensure she never missed another chance to see the value in someone, no matter how unassuming they might seem. One day, as she was scrolling through social media, she came across a post about Sarah. It was a behind-the-scenes photo from a major fashion event, showing Sarah working her magic on a well-known actress. The caption read, "The secret behind every flawless look. A humble artist with unmatched talent. Thank you, Sarah, for always making us shine." Emma's heart swelled with pride. She couldn't help but comment on the post, sharing her own experience. "Sarah did my makeup for my wedding, and it was the most incredible transformation, not just in how I looked, but in how I saw the world. She is truly one of a kind." To Emma's surprise, Sarah replied to her comment a few hours later. "Thank you, Emma. It was a pleasure to be part of your special day. I'm so glad to hear it left a lasting impression. Those are the moments that matter most." The exchange felt like a full-circle moment for Emma. Sarah's humility and quiet strength had not only transformed her wedding day but had also inspired a deeper transformation within herself. Emma realized that true beauty wasn't just about how someone looked or what they achieved. It was about how they treated others, how they carried themselves, and the quiet impact they left on the world. From that day on, Emma made it her mission to pay forward the lessons Sarah had taught her. She became an advocate for recognizing the unseen talent and value in others, whether it was the barista at her favorite coffee shop, the intern at her workplace, or the strangers she passed on the street. She no longer judged people by their appearances or their status. Instead, she sought to see the person behind the surface. In the end, Emma's story wasn't just about a snobby bride learning a lesson. It was about all of us, and how we can choose to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, if only we open our eyes and hearts. Because sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who have the most to teach us, and Emma would never forget that. Months passed, and Emma found herself reflecting on her wedding day more often than she expected. It wasn't just the photos, the memories, or even the compliments she received from friends and family. It was the subtle yet profound change in her outlook that had taken root that day. Sarah's quiet presence had left a lasting mark, and Emma was determined to carry that lesson forward in her life. One afternoon, while enjoying a coffee at a local cafe, Emma overheard a group of women discussing an upcoming charity gala. They were talking about finding the right vendors, florists, caterers, and, of course, a makeup artist. Emma couldn't help but lean in slightly, catching snippets of the conversation. "She needs to be top tier," one of the women said. "We can't have just anyone working this event." Emma smiled to herself, recognizing her former mindset in those words. She debated whether to speak up, but then she decided this was her moment to make a difference. Leaning slightly toward the group, she said, "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear. If you're looking for a makeup artist, I know someone amazing. Her name is Sarah, and she's worked with some of the best in the industry. She's humble, talented, and absolutely incredible." The women looked intrigued. "Really? Does she have a portfolio or a website?" one of them asked. Emma nodded. "She does, and I can guarantee you won't regret hiring her. She's not just a makeup artist, she's an artist in every sense of the word. And trust me, she's someone who will leave an impression far beyond her work." The women thanked Emma for the recommendation, and she left the cafe feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just about promoting Sarah's talent, it was about spreading the lesson she had learned. By championing someone who might otherwise be overlooked, Emma felt like she was honoring the change Sarah had sparked in her. A few weeks later, Emma received a message from Sarah. It was brief but heartfelt. "Emma, thank you for the referral. The gala team reached out, and I'll be working with them next month. I truly appreciate your support." Emma's heart swelled with pride. It felt good to know she had played a small role in connecting Sarah with new opportunities. But more than that, it was a reminder of how much her perspective had changed. She had gone from being someone who dismissed others based on appearances to someone who actively sought to uplift and recognize the unseen talent around her. As the years went by, Emma carried this new mindset into every aspect of her life. Whether it was her career, her friendships, or even her casual encounters with strangers, she made it a point to look beyond the surface. She became known among her peers as someone who could spot potential in others, someone who saw the value in people that others might overlook. And while her life continued to grow in love, success, and fulfillment, Emma never forgot the humble makeup artist who had changed everything. Sarah had been more than just a part of her wedding day. She had been the catalyst for a transformation that extended far beyond the mirror. In the end, Emma realized that life wasn't about grand gestures or outward appearances. It was about the quiet, meaningful moments that shape who we are and how we see the world. And for Emma, Sarah had been the embodiment of that truth. Because sometimes, the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places. And Emma knew she would carry Sarah's lesson with her, not just for a day or a year, but for a lifetime. "Who's that, Mommy?" the little girl asked, her wide eyes scanning the page. Emma smiled, her heart warming at the sight of Sarah's focused expression in the photo. "That's Sarah," she said. "She's the makeup artist who made me look so beautiful on my wedding day. But she's more than that. She's one of the most talented and kind people I've ever met." Her daughter tilted her head, her curiosity growing. "What's so special about her?" Emma paused, thinking about how to explain. "She taught me something very important," she began, wrapping her arm around her daughter. "You see, when I first met her, I didn't think she would be very good at her job because she didn't dress fancy or talk about how great she was. I was wrong. She was better than I could have ever imagined. and she showed me that you should never judge someone by how they look or what they wear. What really matters is who they are and what they can do." The little girl nodded, taking it in with the wide-eyed wonder only children possess. "So, she's kind of like a superhero, but without a costume." Emma chuckled, pulling her daughter closer. "You know what? That's exactly right. She's a real-life superhero, but her power is making people feel beautiful and teaching them to see the beauty in others." As they turned the pages of the album, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how much Sarah's influence had shaped her life over the years. That single encounter had changed the way she viewed the world, the way she treated people, and the way she raised her daughter. When Emma's daughter finally fell asleep, Emma sat quietly, scrolling through her phone. She decided to search for Sarah online, curious about what she had been up to. To her delight, she discovered that Sarah had continued to rise in her field. There were articles about her, photos of her backstage at fashion shows, and interviews where she spoke about her philosophy of staying humble and letting her work speak for itself. Emma felt a swell of pride, as if she had played a small part in Sarah's journey. But more than that, she felt grateful for the lesson, for the connection, and for the chance to pass on that wisdom to the next generation. The next morning, Emma called Sarah. It had been years since they had last spoken, but the conversation flowed as if no time had passed. Emma thanked Sarah again, not just for her talent but for the profound impact she had made on her life. Sarah, ever humble, simply replied, "Emma, I'm glad to hear that. But the truth is, you learned that lesson because you were open to it. Not everyone is. That's something to be proud of." As the call ended, Emma felt a deep sense of contentment. Sarah had been right. The best lessons often come from unexpected places. And now, Emma knew it was her turn to be that lesson for someone else. Because in the end, life isn't just about the transformations we undergo, it's about the transformations we inspire in others. And for Emma, it all started with Sarah, the humble makeup artist who turned out to be so much more. Years rolled on, and Emma's life continued to flourish, not just in material success but in the richness of her relationships and the values she instilled in her family. The lessons Sarah had unknowingly taught her became a cornerstone of Emma's life philosophy, influencing the way she treated people and approached opportunities. Emma eventually started a small business, a boutique wedding planning company. She wanted to create meaningful and beautiful experiences for brides, but with a twist, she prioritized working with vendors and artists who might otherwise go unnoticed. She sought out talent from unexpected places, giving opportunities to those who were often overlooked by the mainstream industry. Her business thrived, not just because of the stunning events she orchestrated, but because of the reputation she built for celebrating and uplifting people from all walks of life. Emma often shared Sarah's story with her clients, using it as an example of how the best moments in life often come from looking beyond the surface. One day, Emma received a call from a prospective bride. The woman sounded hesitant but intrigued. "I heard about your company from a friend," she began. "She said you have a way of finding the most amazing people to work with. I'd like to hire you for my wedding." Emma smiled, recognizing the familiar apprehension in the woman's voice. "I'd love to help," Emma replied warmly. "But I have one condition. Be open to surprises. Sometimes, the people who make the biggest impact are the ones you least expect." The bride laughed softly, and Emma could sense her relaxing. "I'll trust you," she said. "I want my wedding to be special, and it sounds like you know how to make that happen." As Emma planned the wedding, she couldn't help but think of Sarah. She reached out to her, hoping to reconnect once again. When Sarah picked up the phone, her voice was as calm and kind as ever. "Emma, it's so good to hear from you," Sarah said, her tone genuinely warm. They talked about life, work, and the unexpected paths their careers had taken. Emma shared how Sarah's influence had shaped her business philosophy and how she had made it her mission to champion unsung talent. Sarah, true to her nature, downplayed her role, but Emma could hear the pride in her voice. "I'm just glad our paths crossed," Sarah said. "It's amazing to see how far you've come and how you've used that lesson to make a difference." At the wedding, Sarah was one of the featured vendors, doing the bride's makeup. Emma watched from a distance as Sarah worked her magic, her calm confidence lighting up the room. It felt like a full-circle moment, one that reaffirmed everything Emma had learned. After the wedding, the bride approached Emma with tears in her eyes. "This was perfect," she said. "Every detail, every person, it felt so real, so genuine." And Sarah, "She's incredible. Thank you for introducing me to her." Emma smiled, feeling the familiar warmth of gratitude. "She's one of a kind," she said. "And now you know why I believe in the people who aren't always in the spotlight. They're the ones who make the world truly beautiful." As Emma drove home that night, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. What started as a single moment of humility on her wedding day had grown into a lifelong mission to uplift others. Sarah's quiet influence had become a ripple, touching not just Emma's life but the lives of countless others. Emma knew that life would continue to bring challenges and lessons, but she felt ready for them because she had learned the most important truth of all: the greatest beauty in life comes from the connections we make and the kindness we show. And sometimes, the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected people. Years later, Emma stood on the stage of a grand auditorium, addressing a crowd of eager listeners at a conference dedicated to empowering small businesses and celebrating unsung talent. Her business had grown into a nationwide success, and she was often invited to speak about her journey and the principles that had guided her. As she looked out at the audience, she began her story the same way she always did, with the memory of Sarah. "Many years ago," Emma said, her voice steady and warm, "I was a bride obsessed with perfection. I wanted the best of everything, and I thought I knew what the best looked like. Then I met Sarah, a makeup artist who, at first glance, didn't fit the image I had in my mind. But what she taught me that day wasn't just about makeup or beauty. She taught me to see people for who they truly are, beyond appearances, beyond assumptions." The audience listened intently as Emma shared the pivotal moments of her wedding day, her initial misjudgment of Sarah, and the humility she had gained from that experience. She spoke about how Sarah's quiet strength and extraordinary talent had inspired her to change the way she saw the world. "Sarah didn't just make me look beautiful on my wedding day," Emma continued. "She gave me a gift far greater than that. She showed me that real beauty, real value, often lies in the places we least expect." And that lesson transformed not just my wedding day but my entire life. The room was silent, the weight of Emma's words sinking in. She then transitioned to how that single encounter had shaped her business philosophy, her relationships, and her mission to uplift others. "Today, my team and I work with people who might not always be in the spotlight but who bring something extraordinary to the table. We look for the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who let their work speak louder than their words. And every time we do, I'm reminded of Sarah." As Emma wrapped up her speech, she paused for a moment, scanning the faces in the crowd. "So, my challenge to all of you," she said, her voice filled with conviction, "is to look beyond the surface. Whether it's in your business, your relationships, or even in your daily interactions, take a moment to see the person behind the title, the talent behind the quiet demeanor. You might just find someone who changes your life, the way Sarah changed mine." The audience erupted into applause, and as Emma stepped off the stage, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had come full circle, and now she was passing on the lesson that had once been passed to her. Later that evening, as Emma mingled with the attendees, a young woman approached her, her eyes shining with admiration. "Your story really resonated with me," the woman said. "I'm just starting out in my career, and sometimes it feels like no one sees my potential. But hearing about Sarah and what she taught you, it gives me hope." Emma smiled, placing a reassuring hand on the woman's shoulder. "Never underestimate your worth," she said. "The right people will see it, just like I saw Sarah's. And when you get the chance, make sure you do the same for someone else." As the night came to an end, Emma felt a quiet sense of pride. Sarah's influence had not only shaped her own life but was now rippling outward, touching the lives of countless others. And Emma knew, deep in her heart, that this was the greatest legacy she could ever hope to leave behind. As Emma's life continued to evolve, she found new ways to honor the lessons Sarah had taught her. She began a mentorship program within her wedding planning business, offering guidance and opportunities to aspiring artists and vendors who were just starting out. The program wasn't just about technical skills. It was about instilling confidence and teaching people to believe in their value, even when others might overlook them. One day, while reviewing applications for the mentorship program, Emma came across a submission that stood out. The applicant was a young makeup artist who wrote about struggling to break into the industry because she didn't have the right connections or fancy certifications. She described her passion for her craft and her dream of one day working with brides who felt truly seen and beautiful. The letter struck a chord with Emma, It reminded her of Sarah, of the quiet determination and talent that often went unnoticed in a world focused on appearances. Without hesitation, Emma selected the young artist for the program. Months later, Emma had the privilege of seeing the mentee flourish. She watched as the young woman gained confidence, build a loyal client base, and began to believe in her own potential. It was a deeply rewarding experience, one that reminded Emma why she had started the program in the first place. One evening, as Emma was closing up her office, she received a message on social media. It was from Sarah. The message was short but heartfelt. "Emma, I saw your mentorship program online. What you're doing is incredible. It's amazing to see how you've taken a simple moment and turned it into something so impactful. I'm proud of you." Emma's heart swelled as she read the words. She immediately replied to Sarah, "It all started with you. Thank you for being the spark that changed everything. I'll always be grateful." The two continued to exchange messages, catching up on each other's lives and careers. Sarah shared that she had started a nonprofit initiative to teach makeup artistry to underprivileged women, giving them a chance to build a better future for themselves. Emma couldn't help but marvel at how Sarah's humility and generosity continued to inspire her. The connection between Emma and Sarah became a partnership of sorts. They began collaborating on projects, combining their shared passion for uplifting others. Together, they hosted workshops and events, creating spaces where aspiring artists and vendors could learn, grow, and showcase their talents. At one such event, Emma stood beside Sarah as they addressed a room full of attendees. She introduced Sarah to the crowd, her voice filled with emotion. "This is Sarah," Emma said. "She's the reason I'm standing here today. Years ago, she taught me a lesson I'll never forget, that the greatest talents and the most beautiful souls are often found in the places we least expect." She's not just a makeup artist. She's a teacher, a mentor, and a force of nature. And I'm honored to call her my friend. The room erupted in applause, and Sarah, ever humble, smiled softly and shook her head. But Emma knew that the applause was well-deserved. As the event wrapped up and attendees mingled, Emma and Sarah stood side by side, watching the room buzz with energy and excitement. It was a moment of quiet triumph, a testament to the power of a single act of kindness and an open heart. Emma turned to Sarah and said, "You know, you once told me that I learned the lesson because I was open to it. But the truth is, I wouldn't have learned anything if you hadn't been willing to show me grace when I didn't deserve it. You gave me a second chance, and that's something I'll never forget." Sarah smiled, her eyes reflecting the same quiet wisdom Emma had seen all those years ago. "And look at what you've done with that second chance," she said. "That's what matters." As they left the event together, Emma felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had a way of surprising her, of bringing her back to the people and moments that mattered most. And as she walked alongside Sarah, she knew one thing for certain. The lesson she had learned all those years ago wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was a lifelong journey, one she would continue to walk, hand in hand with the people who had made it all possible. As the years unfolded, Emma and Sarah's shared mission blossomed into something far greater than either of them had imagined. Together, they co-founded a nonprofit organization called Beyond the Mirror, aimed at empowering individuals in creative fields who often went unnoticed or undervalued. The organization provided mentorship, scholarships, and platforms for artists, designers, and small vendors to showcase their work. The nonprofit gained traction quickly, attracting attention from major media outlets and industry leaders. What made Beyond the Mirror unique was its heart. It wasn't just about talent but about the values of humility, kindness, and the power of second chances. Emma often reflected on how this journey had started. At public events and interviews, she always credited Sarah, weaving her story into the fabric of their mission. "Sarah taught me that real beauty comes from within," Emma would say, "and that lesson transformed not just my life but the lives of everyone this organization touches." One evening, as Emma prepared for Beyond the Mirror's annual gala, she found herself standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress. Her daughter, now a teenager, walked into the room, holding a scrapbook she had been working on. "Mom," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed, "I've been reading about Sarah again. You talk about her so much, but I feel like I know her personally. She sounds amazing." Emma smiled, her heart full. "She is," she said. "And do you know what makes her so special? It's not just her talent, it's her kindness and her ability to see the best in people, even when they don't see it in themselves. Her daughter tilted her head thoughtfully. "I think I want to be like that too," she said. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "You already are," she said, hugging her daughter. "And that's the most important thing you can be." At the gala that evening, Emma and Sarah took the stage together, as they often did. The room was filled with supporters, artists, and individuals whose lives had been touched by their work. Emma spoke first, sharing the origins of Beyond the Mirror and the profound lessons Sarah had taught her. When it was Sarah's turn, she hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. "I've spent my career trying to make people feel beautiful," she began. "But what I've learned through this journey with Emma is that true beauty isn't something you create, it's something you uncover. It's in the kindness we show, the connections we make, and the way we lift each other up. That's what makes this work so meaningful." The crowd erupted into applause, and as Emma and Sarah embraced, they knew this was more than just a celebration of their work, it was a celebration of the values they had built their lives around. As the night wound down, Emma and Sarah sat together, watching the room buzz with life and energy. Sarah turned to Emma and said, "You know, I never imagined that one wedding day could lead to all of this." Emma laughed softly, nodding. "Neither did I, but I'm glad it did. You changed my life, Sarah. And because of you, I've been able to help change others." Sarah smiled, her expression calm and steady. "And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? A single moment can ripple outward in ways we can't even imagine." Emma nodded, her heart full. She knew this wasn't the end of their journey, it was only the beginning. Together, they had created something lasting, something meaningful. And as they sat side by side, watching the people they had inspired step into their own light, Emma knew they had truly found beauty beyond the mirror. As time went on, Beyond the Mirror became more than just an organization, it became a movement. Its impact spread far and wide, reaching not only aspiring artists, but also everyday people who needed a reminder that their worth went beyond their appearances or societal expectations. One day, Emma and Sarah received an invitation to speak at a global summit focused on transformative leadership and innovation. The event brought together changemakers from all over the world, and Beyond the Mirror had been recognized as a pioneering example of how compassion and vision could create lasting change. Standing backstage, Emma felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Sarah, ever calm and grounded, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've got this," she said with a smile. Emma took a deep breath and nodded. "We've got this," she replied. As they walked onto the stage together, the audience erupted into applause. Emma began by recounting her personal journey, the fateful encounter with Sarah on her wedding day and the transformation that had followed. "I thought I was looking for perfection," Emma told the audience. "But what I found was something far more meaningful. Sarah taught me that perfection isn't about flawless appearances or ticking every box, it's about authenticity, humility, and connection. And that's the foundation of everything we've built together." The audience listened intently as Sarah shared her side of the story, emphasizing the importance of staying true to oneself and valuing others for their inner qualities. "In a world that often focuses on the superficial," Sarah said, "it's a revolutionary act to look deeper, to see people for who they truly are. That's where real transformation begins." Their speech ended with a standing ovation, and as they stepped off the stage, they were approached by attendees eager to share how their message had resonated. One woman, a young entrepreneur from a developing country, spoke through tears. "I've always felt invisible in my industry," she said. "Hearing your story gives me hope that I can succeed without changing who I am. Thank you for showing me that being authentic is enough." Emma and Sarah exchanged a glance, their hearts full. This was why they did what they did, to inspire, to uplift, and to remind people of their inherent worth. In the years that followed, Beyond the Mirror expanded its reach even further. They launched international chapters, partnered with schools and community organizations, and developed online resources to make their message accessible to a global audience. Emma's daughter, now a young adult, joined the organization as a volunteer, bringing fresh ideas and a new perspective. Watching her daughter follow in her footsteps filled Emma with pride. She knew the lessons she had learned from Sarah were now being passed on to the next generation. One evening, as Emma and Sarah sat together reflecting on their journey, Sarah said, "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if we hadn't met that day?" Emma smiled, shaking her head. "I can't imagine it," she said. "You changed everything for me, Sarah. And not just for me, for so many others. You're proof that one person really can make a difference." Sarah laughed softly. "Well, if I'm proof of that, then you're proof that the right lesson, learn it at the right time, can ripple outward in ways we never expect. They clinked their glasses in a quiet toast, their friendship stronger than ever. As they looked ahead to the future, they knew there were still countless lives to touch, countless stories to uncover. And through it all, Emma and Sarah remained committed to the lesson that had brought them together. True beauty isn't found in the mirror, it's found in the way we treat others, the connections we build, and the kindness we carry in our hearts. As Emma and Sarah continued to grow beyond the mirror, they began to receive recognition not just for their work but for the impact they were having on the larger cultural landscape. Media outlets started to feature their stories, highlighting how the nonprofit was challenging the traditional standards of beauty and success. The narrative of underdogs becoming industry leaders, fueled by empathy and humility, was captivating to audiences everywhere. One evening, while attending a gala to celebrate women's achievements in business, Emma and Sarah were approached by a well-known journalist who had been following their journey. She had an idea that she felt could amplify their mission even further. "Emma, Sarah," the journalist began, "what you've built here is revolutionary. People are starting to see the world differently because of you two. I think it's time to take this to the next level. I want to help you write a book about your story, about how one simple act of kindness changed everything." Emma exchanged a glance with Sarah, both of them feeling a surge of emotion. A book, this was something they hadn't even considered. It felt surreal, yet it seemed like the natural next step in their journey. After a brief moment of silence, Emma nodded. "I think that's a great idea," she said, her voice steady but filled with gratitude. "We have so much to share, and if this can help others see the power of kindness, empathy, and seeing beyond the surface, then we'd love to do it." The book became their next big project. It was an honest, raw, and deeply personal account of their experiences, how Sarah's quiet yet powerful influence had shaped Emma's life, and how their partnership had transformed the lives of so many others. The chapters detailed not just their professional success but the personal growth they had experienced together, the lessons they had learned, and the people who had inspired them along the way. The book, titled Beyond the Mirror, Finding Beauty in Unexpected Places, became an instant bestseller. People from all walks of life connected with its message, finding hope in the stories of resilience, self-acceptance, and the importance of kindness. Readers wrote to Emma and Sarah, sharing how the book had impacted their own lives, how they were now looking at the world and themselves differently. One letter, in particular, stood out to Emma. It was from a young woman who had struggled with body image issues for years, constantly comparing herself to societal standards of beauty. After reading the book, she wrote, "I used to believe I wasn't enough. I spent so much of my life trying to change myself to fit into a mold that never suited me. But your story helped me see that my worth isn't defined by how I look or what others think of me. It's about who I am, the kindness I show, and the difference I can make in the world. Thank you for giving me the courage to embrace who I truly am." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she read the letter. It was moments like this that reminded her why she and Sarah had started their journey in the first place, to make a difference, to inspire change, and to help others see the beauty within themselves. As they continued their work with Beyond the Mirror, Emma and Sarah began to mentor the next generation of leaders, young women and men who were passionate about making the world a kinder, more inclusive place. They shared the same values that had guided them, teaching their mentees not just the technical skills needed to succeed but the importance of empathy, integrity, and seeing people for who they truly were. Years passed, and Beyond the Mirror expanded into a global network, reaching thousands of people around the world. The organization had become a symbol of empowerment, reminding individuals that their worth was not determined by the opinions of others but by the love, compassion, and authenticity they carried within themselves. Emma and Sarah, now both in their 50s, stood side by side at the organization's 20th anniversary celebration. Looking out over the room filled with grateful faces, they reflected on how far they had come. The quiet moment of Sarah doing Emma's makeup all those years ago had sparked a journey neither of them could have imagined. As they shared the stage, Emma looked at Sarah with a smile. "We did it," she said softly. Sarah, with a gentle laugh, nodded. "We didn't just do it. We've built something that will continue to change lives long after we're gone." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. She had learned from Sarah that the greatest impact comes not from the things we acquire or the accolades we collect, but from the lives we touch and the kindness we share along the way. And as they celebrated their success, Emma knew that the story they had started together was far from over. The journey of Beyond the Mirror would continue to inspire, to empower, and to remind the world that the truest form of beauty lies in the connections we make and the lives we uplift. Together, they had built something timeless. And in that moment, Emma realized that she had found the most profound beauty of all, beauty that transcends time, trends, and expectations. It was the beauty of love, kindness, and the unbreakable bond between two souls who had learned to see each other for who they truly were. As Emma and Sarah looked out over the room, feeling the overwhelming gratitude for everything they had accomplished, they knew their journey wasn't just about them anymore. It was about all the lives they had touched and the countless more they still hoped to reach. And as they stood there, reflecting on how far they had come, Emma turned to Sarah and smiled. "We've come a long way," Emma said, her voice filled with emotion. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." Sarah nodded, her eyes twinkling with the same quiet strength that had always guided them. "The world still needs more kindness, more understanding, and more people willing to see beyond the surface. Let's keep going." And just as they had shared their journey with so many others, they wanted to continue sharing the lessons, stories, and wisdom that had helped them build beyond the mirror. If you've been inspired by this journey and want to learn more about the power of seeing beyond appearances, making a difference in the world, and embracing the true beauty within, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us as we continue to spread this message far and wide, helping even more people discover their worth and live their most authentic lives. Together, we can create a world where everyone is seen, heard, and valued for who they truly are. So hit that like button, share this message with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to stay part of this incredible journey. Because the journey of Beyond the Mirror isn't over, it's just beginning, and we want you to be part of it. Thank you for being with us every step of the way. Let's continue to make the world a kinder, more beautiful place, one person at a time.